Welcome, guided members. How's everyone doing today? This is a movement workout specifically geared at using full ranges of motion and opening up our body's mobility. So let's begin in a deep squat, and we're just getting the body ready to do some of the movements that are coming up. So you can bounce around a little bit, wiggle the wrists, get yourself loose. And to be honest with you guys, this workout is tough. We're using hanging as our recovery period, so there's not a lot of breaks here. And with that, we get that conditioning effect. So you guys that are trying to lean up out there, stick with me. But as always, if you need to pause the video, take a longer break, feel free to do so. We're going to begin with our frog hop. So we start in a squat position, put the hands out in front of you, load into the shoulders, and bring the feet back up to the hands. We want to try to drive the knees outward, and we want to support ourselves on the shoulder as much as possible. Try to control this motion in every aspect. Float yourself through that drive of the shoulders, and between the hops, find a good deep squat position, bringing your torso upright. Some things that you can play around with here are going from a very deep squat position where the hips are lower than the knees, and then playing with a higher squat position where you're really trying to drive the knees outwards. Now, you can also see how far you can bring your feet forward. So maybe you can get your feet in front of your hands when you hop. And of course, for those of you that have the shoulder strength, see how long you can hover the feet off the ground as you hop forward. Now, for our recovery period, we're going to hang. So for those of you who don't have something to hang from, I want you to put your hands on the top of the doorway and let your chest fall forward. Feel the spine and the chest open up as you do this variation of a hang. Now, if you have a doorway pull-up bar, a tree branch, some rings, then we're just going to do a passive hang here, and I want you to let the shoulders drift up to the ears, and I want you to settle in and breathe. We're going to try to do nasal breathing for all of the duration of this hang here, and I'm taking anywhere from 5 to 10 breaths. And go ahead and relax. Awesome job, guys. We're gonna move directly into our next exercise here, which is a Cossack to split squat transition. So I'm gonna show you the beginner variation first. That's going to be to squat to one leg laterally, put your hands on the ground, and then use your hands to assist you to move you forward into a split squat position. Keep your hands on the ground the whole time. Squat yourself back up, and then we'll do the same to the other side, squatting laterally, bending the torso forward to keep that hand on the ground, transition into your split squat, and then squat yourself back up. Notice I start in this horse stance position. This makes it easy to try to get down lower into these squat positions. So as you go, try to make these transitions smoother and smoother. As you can see, I rotate on my foot here, and then I get into that split squat position, a good hip flexor stretch, and then I push myself back up to the start. And the more challenging variation is to not use the hands. So we'll do a full Cossack squat with the hands up, and then make that transition to the split squat. And you can feel free to pause in any of these positions for longer if it feels good for you. If it feels like a good stretch here in the Cossack, you can sit there for a few seconds. Same with this deep split lunge. If you want to stay there for a few seconds longer to stretch that hip flexor, that is completely fine. So I will say these are really challenging. So it's actually expected to use your hands here in the start. This can be a good goal to work towards over time to see if you can get this full expression of the transition without the hands. But in the beginning, use the hands as much as needed. So after we complete 4 on each side, Those legs should be feeling it by now. We're gonna move into our hang. Once again, we're gonna be doing a lot of hanging. Like I said, hanging is our rest period. So I'm just showing another example. Doorway hang, you just let that chest fall forward, let those shoulders be driven back behind your head if you don't have something to hang from. It's a really awesome way to get that hanging effect and open up the spine without having to have something to hang from. And for those of you that do, let's hang. Let's just breathe through the nose. And relax. Awesome job. We're going to move into our next exercise, and really quick here, I'm going to show what you are going to do if you can't do this full half cartwheel. If you can't do the full half cartwheel, you're going to do the downward dog variation. So you put your hands out in front of you and you open the hip to the side and really try to let that spine twist and open up. This is the full expression that I know most of you guys are going to be able to do. It's a half cartwheel. So you put your hands to the side and you let that top hip open up. You try to straighten out all of your limbs. The closer you bring your foot and your hand together, the more difficult this is. And that's because it requires you to have to flex the side of your core. And notice how you can see my spine is twisted, and that's exactly what we're going for here. So you come back to your squat position, take a couple breaths, and then we'll move back into it. And once again, the bottom leg and both the arms, we're trying to straighten the elbows and straighten the knee. Get those as straight as possible. And the goal is to push the ground away with your hands as hard as you can. Think about if you were to lift that bottom foot off the ground, you would want to be able to support yourself on your shoulders. Obviously, that would be really hard to do, but that's the effort that I want you to put into this. So let's go one more on each side here, nice and controlled. Okay, go ahead and relax. Those are tough, and you also have to deal with all the blood rushing to your head because you spend so much time upside down. So it's another component of the exercise. So as always, we're gonna move into our hang for our rest period. So more comfortable you get with hanging, think about keeping your rib cage tucked down, not letting that flare up. That's gonna really stretch your shoulders overhead and give you that good overhead position. Now, I don't want you to forcefully bring the ribs down, just enough tension to keep them in alignment with the rest of your spine. And as always, just breathing through the nose, getting that good nasal breath. Okay guys, awesome. Go ahead and relax, and we are going to cycle through what we just did 2 more times. So we'll begin with our frog hop once again, and I'm going to show you here. This round I'm going to do them from the horse stance position. So my feet are mostly straight. I keep my torso upright and I bring my hips down, and everything else stays the same. Your center of gravity is just a bit higher, and find that good horse stance position between each hop. The horse stance and the frog hop in general is great for opening up your inner thighs and opening this up with strength, because your glutes and the outside of your thighs have to really work in order to keep a nice strong position there. And the other thing I love about the frog hop is it develops a lot of pushing strength from the shoulders. So you'd be surprised at how these will translate into doing push-ups or planks, or if you want to start exploring more handstand work. This is such a good intro movement to developing that foundational strength. So let's finish up our last 2 hops. Great job, guys. Let's move on to the toughest way to relax, which is in a hang. But trust me, the more that you can get yourself to be comfortable in the hang and be able to just breathe and calm your nervous system, the better mobility you're going to have throughout the spine and the shoulders and even the lower back as well. And remember, you don't have to hang exactly as long as I do. Like I said, I'm taking around 5 to 10 breaths. If you need to hang shorter, if you want to hang a little bit longer, then go ahead and tailor it for what feels good for your body right now. Because as always with these movement sessions, we're exploring, we're putting in work. This isn't easy, but it's also a chance to really connect with your body. And we move to the Cossack, hands down, rotate over into that deep split lunge. And you can keep your hand down or you can bring the hands up, whatever feels good for you right now. Now, one thing that I didn't mention on our first round is that if you need to go onto your toe for the Cossack squat, then that's fine. We can do that, right? It's always our goal over time to work to that flat foot because that requires more mobility from the ankle and the hip. But if you need to go onto the toe right now, feel free to do so. So you'll find that as I get more warmed up and as I get more comfortable doing this movement, I put more flow into it. I've mentioned before, another variation of getting more competent at a movement is not just strength and mobility, but it's also the expression of the movement. How much control do you have? How pretty does it look? These are other things that can increase the quality of your movement, and they're things to think about. And let's repeat one more lunge cycle on each side. Excellent job, everyone. Let's move to our hang. Years ago, this is maybe 4 years ago now, I put out a hanging video and the thumbnail said hang out with Josh. And I thought that was pretty funny. So let's go ahead and hang, breathe through the nose, try to calm your system and relax. So we're back in the squat and we move into our half cartwheel. This side flexion and just the ability to move laterally is something that you'll see is missing from most workout plans or just most styles of fitness. We don't move laterally very often. And the reason why I love the half cartwheel is because it makes your hips and your shoulders move laterally. Now, if you just were to do some side lunges, then that's just your hips moving laterally. But because we're posting the shoulders down, posting those hands down, it forces us to get that nice side flexion of the spine. And the spine really needs to move in all of the directions that it's able to move. Another reason why I really like this exercise is because it's quite challenging on the balance, especially after you release out of your half cartwheel, come back down, to be able to find a nice squat position in the middle and then transition to the other side takes coordination and balance. So here's our last rep. Nice job, everyone. Go ahead and relax and let's move into our hang. Awesome. Go ahead and relax. And as we move into this final round, starting with our frog hops, I'm going to talk a little bit about this routine. Now, if you're doing this right now, if you've made it this far, then I imagine you're feeling pretty good. This type of training really connects you with your body. And I mean, look at what we're doing. These are things that kids do, right? And there's a reason why kids have such free bodies and also free spirits and imagination, because we're moving in these ways that our body is designed to move in. And that's a more romantic view, but for most of us here, that's probably good enough to feel good in your body, to move, to connect. That's great. On a more technical aspect, your body needs to move through the ranges of motion that it has, or else it's simply just not going to maintain those, or accessing those ranges of motion is just going to be clunky. It might cause pain. My personal view is that if you've lost range of motion, then of course you're going to need to do the more linear stretching, and that's why there's the stretching routines in guided. That's why Move Strong Now has a lot of loaded mobility, potent exercises that will open up your joints. But secondly, we need to go use that mobility that we're developing, and this is what a lot of people miss. The more that we use it in routines like this, where we're moving our body through these natural ranges of motion, the quicker your body will keep that mobility that you're working for. And that's really important to know. And the last thing that I'll mention for now, I guess the third thing, is that it gives you a chance to explore your body. And one of the most common things I hear from people when they start doing guided or Move Strong Now is they say, wow, I didn't realize how stiff I've become over the years. And this happens when we're just not using our body through much range of motion. Even if you're going to the gym, maybe the deepest that you're taking your hips is through a squat, and maybe it's not too deep of a squat. And the only time that we really know that we're tight is when we bend down to try to touch our toes, or you stand up after a long day of sitting and you notice some stiffness in your hips. But moving like this allows you to explore and allows you to see, oh, I'm pretty stiff in this one angle right here. Okay, maybe I can use that information, and maybe focusing on this range of motion is just going to make my body feel a lot better and a lot more free to move however you want to move. Okay, I know I said that was the last thing, but I'll add one more. Once you become more and more competent in movements such as these, you almost develop a new language. And you can move around and link some of these movements up, start improvising, and be able to express yourself in a new way, which is really, really cool. So let's hit one more lunge sequence on each side. Awesome job, guys. We're approaching the end of the workout, so let's hit this hang. Go ahead and relax, and by this point, I know that you're feeling really opened up in your body. Remember how it feels to be here, and this is a really good one to repeat a lot if you are working on becoming more competent in movement while also opening up joints at the same time. So let's hit these half cartwheels. Remember, push that ground away, straighten the knee, feel a good deep stretch in the hips, feel the torso twist. We'll do 3 more on each side. Excellent. We're going to finish up with one last hang. And guys, we've done so much hanging today that your shoulders are really going to love you for it. And I know that the grip might be challenging and that might be your limiting factor, and that's okay, you know? And using chalk helps, but your grip will strengthen along with the rest of your body. So feel free to have some fun with this one. You can swing around a little bit. You can swing around a lot if you want. Explore the hang, and if you're pretty tired, feel free to cut it short. You did it. We crushed this workout. Way to show up, way to get the work done, and way to do something that's so outside of the box. We know that this stuff to the average person looks pretty weird, but we know that if we embrace that weirdness, then it is so beneficial for us. Guys, I appreciate you letting me guide you. Give a little jig, and I'll see you tomorrow.